Yeah.
Then you're okay. Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Oh,
This
yeah,
is
it's your channel. It's your channel.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, it's fine. I'm just happy that it can be used for more than being a bad example. So, but no, Lena, it's your guest, so we are live. Fire away.
Well, welcome everybody. We are on Gavin's YouTube channel, and to support him because he's amazing, you got to hit that subscribe button, which I learned tonight. You can say sub. I didn't know. I guess this is new lingo. Or hit the like button. But we are so thrilled for tonight's episode because we have a very special guest who I have not seen in so long, Joanna. And Joanna, she's going to introduce herself, but she is a psychotherapist. She's a best-selling author, and she's here tonight to talk about dethroning your inner critic. Self-sabotaging behaviors, that voice inside us that doesn't allow to be the best we can be. And I know I have it, and I can pretty certain that the whole panel has it. So she's going to help us handle it and tell us how to work with it. Before we get to Miss Joanna, you guys know who I am, Lena Sisco. I'm a former Navy intelligence officer, a Marine Corps certified interrogator. I am also an author, and I'm a former TEDx speaker, and I started my own company, the Congruency Group, and Sector Intelligence a couple of years ago, that one. And now I do a lot of training online. I keynote speak, and my third book, Honest Answers, just hit the stores and Amazon on November 15th. So pick up a copy and let me know what you think. And that is enough about me. I'm going to pop it over to the host of this YouTube channel, Gavin, and then Gavin can pass the ball to Robin, and then we're going to get to know our special guest. So Gav, over to you.
Thank you. So, hi, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name's Gavin Stone. I'm a former civil servant for the British Ministry of Defence. I've worked in the security and intelligence industry around about 20 years in all manner of different arenas. I'm also the best-selling author of this here book, How to Tell If Someone Is Lying. And I've just released my fiction novel. Look, there we go. Thank you, Robin. The Unforgiven Spy, which is doing really, really well at the moment. So thank you to everybody who bought a copy of that. And yeah, I'll pass it over to the man with the painting in the attic, Robin Dreeke. He's frozen again, or is he taking it?
Robin Dreeke, host of the Forged by Trust podcast, former United States Marine, veteran FBI agent, spy recruiter, and have my own company, People Formula, best-selling author, my 3 books, and coaching, speaking. Probably coaching is my number one thing I enjoy doing. Online training, course, and any kind of consulting when it comes to communication and trust. I'm your guy.
Yeah. Awesome. And Joanna, I got to say, you look stunning. Like, you look, yeah, I'm just like, wow, you look amazing.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
Another painting.
And as you, Lena, but you always look stunning. You always look stunning. Yes.
Well, thank you very much. All right, I'm going to pop the ball over to you, Joanna. Tell our entire audience who you are, what you do, how you got into it, and then we're going to interrogate you. No, maybe not that bad, but
I'm ready. So my name is Joanna Kleinman. I am a psychotherapist. I am the author of the best-selling book, Dethroning Your Inner Critic, the 4-Step Journey from Self-Doubt to Self-Empowerment. I created a methodology called the M.I.N.D Method. M.I.N.D is an acronym, which is all outlined in my book. And I created an international program and community of women that are involved in a program that I created called the Mastering Your Mind. So that's a little bit about who I am. And how I started all of this was basically, I started getting into self-awareness and transformational thinking when I was 9 years old. I was introduced to it by my parents. And, mostly I just kind of, went along, but I was kind of raised in this environment where I was really taught to take a lot of personal responsibility and personal ownership for, the way that I thought and the way that the filters through which I saw myself in the world. And I really took on transformational work when I was 19, and I'm 52, and I've never stopped.
Wow.
So I created the M.I.N.D Method after 25 years as a psychotherapist. And, you know, I had a, you know, thriving private practice. But what I found was that, you know, there was a commonality in the way, right? When people came to me, they just wanted relief, right? From whatever it was that they were suffering from. And when we got to the root of what they were suffering from, it didn't matter what it was. It could have been something professionally, something personally, something in a relationship, something, you know, with their health or with their body. It didn't matter. Really at the root, okay, every single person, including myself, was listening to their automatic voice in their mind that basically kind of regurgitated the same message, the same fundamental root message over and over and over, right? So they thought that they were upset about something that was happening in their marriage or with their mother or with their boss, right? But we really got down to the core of it. Their thoughts about the situation were pushing on that root core pain, right? And so that's why I created the M.I.N.D Method, because we can never get rid of that automatic voice in our minds that tells us, right, that in order to feel good about ourselves, we have to be successful and we have to reach that goal. And then guess what? We reach that goal and then it's very short-lived and we're back to the next thing that we need for, right, for our validation, for our worthiness, right? And, you know, I think you guys all know, right, being successful authors and successful in your business, right, that you don't really get to this arrival point, right? Like, I know, right? I had a dream of, you know, writing a book for forever. And I finally, I published my book in 2020, right? It did better than I ever anticipated it would, right? If you had said to me 5 years ago, by the way, you're going to write a book, you're going to be a best-selling author, I would have said, okay, you know what? Put a pin in me. I am done. That is the answer to everything. Well, it was the answer for like maybe a day or maybe a week, right? And that's how it goes, right? People think that their fulfillment and joy and love and vitality lives out there in, if I can just get this relationship, if I can just get the promotion, if I can just launch this business, if I could just make this money, if I could just lose that weight, that would be the thing. Never the
I
thing.
got so much to say, but I've seen Robin have at least 3 pings in the last 2 minutes. So I'm going to...
Different reasons. I'm always conscious of my pings because I know you're watching for me.
Sorry, Robin.
I wrote it down. I'm like 9 years old. Robin's going after it.
Yeah, I saw that.
The hard thing is remembering each of the pings because they're all really, because you're Joanna, you're absolutely a treasure and fascinating. I want to talk about all the pings. Do I get to go first?
Fire away.
Yeah, Robin, you can go first. We're gonna do it.
Oh, Joanna, I'm going to overlap 2 together, if that's okay, because I think I'm curious about the intersection. You mentioned when you were younger that you learned about mindfulness from your parents at a young age, and it sounded like a great gift. And it sounded like a really healthy experience for you. But at the same time, you talked about trauma that we've all experienced and those things in life. What was the intersection of those 2 things that you had when you're growing up?
Yeah. So you're asking for the intersection between trauma and
yours, because we all have it.
Yes.
Yet you started out talking about a good, healthy experience with mindfulness and taking accountability. But
yes,
there's something else in there. I was curious what that other something was and how you utilized that one at a young age to move you from there to there.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about this yesterday. When people say, I loved my childhood, right? I had a carefree childhood. I'm like, really? And the interesting thing is, I can't point to any acute trauma, but what I can tell you is that generally speaking, I was fearful. I was afraid that I didn't measure up. I was afraid of being judged and criticized, right? I just
For
had
what?
this.
For what? Where did that come from? Who was that coming from?
So if I had to guess, okay, I would say my father was somebody that lost his temper. It wasn't violent or anything like that,
Sure.
right? But it was sort of like I guess you could say it was maybe a little intermittent explosive disorder, right?
Right.
Where he was great, loving, wonderful, and then all of a sudden something would set him off, and right, Now I was an only child, right? I was very
Right.
close to my parents. And Robin, what's interesting is that I think up until I was 19 and really started taking on personal growth and transformation work for myself, I thought my parents were like the greatest thing since sliced bread.
What sparked that desire to do that at 19? That's pretty revolutionary at a young age. What was that spark that said, "Oh, I need to do this"?
Yeah. I was a sophomore in college. Okay. And I looked around and I had a great life. I had friends. I was in college. I mean, there was nothing wrong. And
According to who?
well, I was unhappy.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So on the surface, nothing's
Yeah.
wrong according to the context of the culture in which you are, but to you there was. And what was it?
Absolutely. I just wasn't happy. I was insecure. I was full of self-doubt. I just had a lot of insecurity that I dragged around with me. And I think by the time I was 19, I said, there has to be more to this. And, Robin, I will also say that when I got into transformational work, it was life-changing, but I really, really didn't understand at that time that there is this automatic voice in my mind that I was listening to as though it was me.
Right.
So when you are like when you're in your 20s, you still are convinced, there is more to do, right? Once I get married, once I become a mom, once I launch my career, once I have a private practice as a psychotherapist, it's something I always dreamed of, right? You still have these things that you're reaching for. And I think that we get to this point in our lives where we've checked a lot of the boxes that we thought were going to be the thing. So while, don't get me wrong, personal growth and transformation, like I am thrilled that I started this at 19 and it got me to a lot. But I think that, really creating the M.I.N.D Method was first and foremost for myself.
Right. Always is. That's why I was curious about what the spark for was. And I'm sorry, that's the last question, I promise. I'm just following the string that you brought up. You mentioned also it sounds like a great passion for women in this field also, correct?
Yes.
Was that something that was an issue? Not an issue. Was that something that was part of that spark and that insecurity, do you think? And where did you think that came from? If it was.
So when I was in private practice, I worked with men and women. I work with couples. I love working with men. I absolutely love working with men. And what I found when I would put men and women together in some programs that I led, that there was a little bit of, people couldn't really get vulnerable.
Right.
Right. So when I created my program, I really wanted to hone in on women, first of all, because women do have a different inner critic than men.
Yes.
And I do get a lot of people that say, well, men need this too. And they do.
Mhm.
Right now, I'm building this for women. Maybe someday, right? I love working with men. So maybe someday I will launch this for men. But I that's really why I'm keeping it separate right now, because I think that there is an ability to be more vulnerable when you're with, the same sex.
Right. I was just curious whether how they were linked together, and where it came from. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be a guinea pig when you're ready to launch this. I don't mind put myself in the firing line. So, really quickly, there's something I want to ask your opinion on. I saw this thing a while ago, and it said, "Be careful how you speak to your children, because the voice you speak to your children with becomes their internal voice that they talk to themselves with later on in life." So when they're growing up, their internal voice is actually kind of their Jiminy Cricket, as it were, if you want to call it that. And with that as well in mind, the amount of times I hear people then later on in life say, I was talking and I could hear my mum coming out of my mouth, or I could hear my dad coming out of my mouth. So that kind of relates to that same kind of thing. Do you think that your parents' voice and how they talk to you, the way they talk to you, do you think that has a huge impact on your internal voice and internal dialogue as you're growing?
It's a great question. So of course, yes, I do. Right. In that, I think that as a parent, okay, if you are not understanding your inner inner pain, right? If you are as a parent, you've kind of done this to your pain your whole life. Okay. Once you have kids, as some of you who are parents might know, right? They really push your buttons. Okay. And if you're not aware of what your buttons are, you will blame them. You will think that they are the problem. And then you will want to fix and change them. Now, of course, as parents, right, we have to, set some boundaries and have some rules and have some discipline. But children, okay, I mean, and I know, I'm a mom of 3, okay, and there is nothing in my life that mirrored for me my pain and my core issues than being a mom, right? So as much as I raised my kids raised me. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, we can do our best as parents to understand that, but we are perfectly imperfect because we are human beings, okay? And so we can do our best, and I don't care what kind of parent you are, your child is going to have an automatic mind with their own fears and their own doubts and their own insecurities. And there's nothing we can do to prevent that. All we can do is be the best version of ourselves and take ownership of our anger and our frustration, and support our children when they are struggling with their own human stuff, because nobody escapes this. There are different degrees. So if you're raised in a family with, parents that were really hypercritical or abusive, or right now, but we can also look at, Oprah and Tony Robbins, to name a few, right? There are some people that came from horrible childhoods, right? And took ownership of their life and brought it to a level that is, indescribable, right? And there are other people that came from loving and supportive and nurturing environments, right? And are very broken and damaged, right? So there's a lot of different puzzle pieces that play a part in this.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to jump in. So I think, and there's been so many good questions, and I don't know, Gavin, if you're tallying them up. I'm trying to, you see me, I'm feverishly taking notes. So I have one question for you, Joanna, but I'm going to wait, because what I really want to know is how we can help ourselves and how we can help others. And I think it's your M.I.N.D method. So could you tell us about this amazing method that you've created?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Okay. So the premise of the method is that we have a very unconscious automatic mind that talks to us. Science says it's about 80,000 thoughts per day. Okay. 80,000 thoughts per day. So we think that we are thinking, and really we're not. It's just that our minds are just going, and we're blindly following them. So the premise of the M.I.N.D method is to actually step back and to observe this voice. I often say, put it right on the palm of your hand right here. Okay. So I call this voice your inner critic voice. And it is not just the voice that is critical and harsh and says mean things. It is also the voice that says, if you don't reach that goal, you're not good enough. And if you're not making this kind of money, you're not successful, right? Or if you don't look like this, we could go on and on, right? And so that voice sort of creates this pendulum, okay, where if we've reached that ideal of what that voice tells us we should be, oh my goodness, we feel, oh, I'm so sorry. I turned off those notifications.
I'm just glad it was you. I was like, oh my God, did I not turn mine off? I did. It was me.
I turned them off, I swear. So it's a pendulum. So, oh my gosh, oh, look, I feel wonderful. I feel on top of the world. And then, but then that has us looking for the next thing that we need for our fulfillment, right? Which is right. So we keep looking for our fulfillment out there and our value out there. We're not going to find it. So the M.I.N.D method, I'll just tell you the acronym. The M step is meet your inner critic. In other words, we're not changing or fixing this voice. We're going to observe it. We're going to get so intimately familiar with every little thing. What does it say? When does it say it? Why does it say it? Where does it get triggered? The I step is investigate the indication signs. So I call those the blinking red lights that alert you that your inner critic mind has swallowed you whole. So those are the times where you might want to come home and you don't want to talk to anybody, right? You just want to put your hair up in a ponytail for those of us that are women, right? Have a few glasses of wine or eat some Ben & Jerry's. We're done, right? It could be, for other people, it is, right? I have to do more. I have to keep busy, right? I have to go on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, or else I feel unworthy, right? There are so many different indication signs, right? Even, right, over exercising, overworking, being a people pleaser, right? These are the indication signs. So the N step is to neutralize what I call the never-ending message. Okay. So I'll give you an example of what happened to one of my clients today. Okay. Her son, her adult son, is moving from next door to her to Nashville, and she is devastated. I mean, just devastated. When we got down to, right, why is she so sad and devastated? Right? This took a while, so I'm going to just, in 5 seconds, it makes her feel unimportant and unloved. And when we really got down to it, unworthy. And I said, how long have you felt unworthy? She said, my whole life. And we went right back down to 5 years old, right? And this is, right? Doesn't matter what the issue is. when we really get down to the root, it is always the same never-ending message as far as something that is really causing us to suffer, right? The suffering comes from our thoughts and beliefs about the circumstance, not the circumstance itself, right? The D step is design your life. So designing your life is about the ongoing practice of getting so intimately familiar with the difference between who you really are and that automatic mind, such that the practice of unhooking from that mind. See, this is why I call it dethroning.
Yeah.
We don't get rid of it. We don't shut it up. We can never get rid of it. But when we can become so familiar with it that we can see it as soon as it's taken over, we can go, oh, I see you, right? I see you making me feel like I'm worthless because I didn't hit my business goal, or because, right, my book only sold this many copies, or whatever it is, right? You can see it and unhook from it. And that is when you can design a fundamentally different life where your joy and connection and fulfillment comes from within as opposed to without.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a very, very different life, but it's hard work. And it is a daily practice, right? So I've been engaged in practicing the M.I.N.D Method, for years. And my inner critic voice, if I'm not practicing first seeing her so clearly first thing in the morning by writing her down and really seeing her and unhooking myself, I'm probably swallowed that day. Why does everybody want to comment?
Because they're watching this show and they're like, I have questions for Joanna.
All right, hold on. Now this is going to be my, hold on. I'm so
ringtone.
Do my dance.
It's all good. I was watching Robin go introspective while you were talking there for a moment. I saw someone go deeply internal for a moment.
I'm gonna turn off my camera on you.
It's harder this week because you've got the picture on the TV, so I haven't got the reverse image from the other side.
I know, so I put it up there so you couldn't.
I know.
This week.
Lena, you had questions. I'm quickly going to say, actually, before you take over, if it's all right. My wife's already bought a copy of your book today. She's really interested. She's going to be contacting you at some point soon, so be prepared to be tested.
I can't wait to get a copy. I heard somebody talking on Janine Driver was talking about your book on Instagram the other day. She said it's one of the best books she's ever read. Did you see that?
About whose?
Yours.
Oh, mine. I think No, I didn't. I did not. Oh my gosh. She sent me a private video. She was lounging at home and she sent me a video. She's like, kiddo, oh my God. So I got that, but I didn't see the Instagram. I'll have to check it out.
I'll have you know, though, I was the first review on Amazon.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. Oh, look at Robin. I'm so appreciative.
Look at me. That's all right.
All right. So, as you were talking, as I'm listening, there in some of the people, and of course, I do want to get to some questions that you guys all have for Joanna, and she's amazing. And don't worry, before we go, you're going to know where to find her, how to contact her, and everything she offers. So stay tuned until the very end. But, sometimes if people are thinking, well, I'm just driven. I want to do better. I'm a go-getter. And so why is that bad? Right. And so can you talk to that? Because if some people are saying, yeah, I wrote my first book, but I'm going to write another one and I reached that and I want to write another one and I want to, when does that become unhealthy? I guess, where is that?
It's a really good question. So, we should all have goals and we should all have things that we're reaching for, right? Because that's what life is about, right? That's what growth is about. But when we are reaching for that next thing because we need to, because we feel in some way unsatisfied, unfulfilled, right? So these are the Robin Williams and the Anthony Bourdains of the world and the Kate Spades of the world.
Yeah.
Okay. So in its extreme,
Yeah.
many people who are incredibly successful, according to, right, our society standards, very often get to that level of success because their inner critic is driving the whole journey, right? They get to this level and it's not enough. And they get to this level and it's not enough. And they finally get to a level where you can't go any higher. And they look at their life, they've left a trail of dead bodies along the way, right? They've not enjoyed the journey. So I will never stop reaching for goals. But if I am not unhooking from my inner critic, right, then I'm not enjoying the journey. And that's really the name of the game of life, is to be so present right now that you're so grateful for all that you've already created and accomplished and who you already are, such that you don't need that next thing. You might go for it, but not because you need to. And that's very different, because then you're not attached, demanding. It has to produce these results, right? We're such a results-driven society. I mean, if you look at like the mental health crisis right now, particularly amongst children, right? It is because for generations upon generations, we've been taught to live this life where we've got to meet this standard. And what's so interesting is that really the most extraordinary things in our life, okay, the most extraordinary relationships, or right, if you really look, you didn't have much to do with that, right? You did what you did. You took the actions that you took, right? But generally speaking, we take these actions and life unfolds. And if life unfolds in this direction, we go, oh, look, that was great. And if life unfolds in that direction, we go, oh, that's terrible. And really, it's just life. So if we can keep taking the steps, but we can stay at peace even when life doesn't fit exactly the way that we want it to, right? That's a different life. When we can be at peace and find that joy, even when life doesn't fit the way that our inner critic says it's supposed to.
Yeah, I've seen so many things like this where people are. Well, I think you summed it up with the word you used when you said destination. You know, and this is what people have got. They're looking for a destination, and so many people do. This is why so many people move house, move jobs, move locations, because they think their happiness is somewhere else, or with something else, in another job, in another place, in another town. And like you say, you hit the nail on the head when you said, you know, it's actually within you. I'm going to get shot by my wife if I don't mention something. So if you don't mind, can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
Is that all right with you guys? Brilliant. So her brother and her cousin were brought up. They moved from England as youngsters with her mom over to the States. They had a very up and down life, shall we say. They come back later on when they were in their late teens, and she loves it and has wanted to go back to America ever since. We've moved out. We were in the process of emigrating over there. We love it over there. Her brother, on the other hand, and her cousin, they need counselling for the exact same life that my wife has had. Which to me is unbelievable, and there's a lot more to all this. But I know she wants me to ask, is there a particular reason that you could say, why you think that three different people having exactly the same upbringing, two of them need counselling for they're all around about the same age as well, and one of them doesn't. So I've got to ask it before she hits me with a frying pan.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing. When we are children, okay, when we are very small children, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, this is when we first start trying to figure out how we matter, how we belong, how we're valued, okay? And it is inevitable that something in life happens that makes us feel like we might not be loved and valued, okay? It could come from a parent, it could come from a sibling, it could come from a teacher, right? But there's something that happens. Right there is where that automatic mind first gets formed. So here's how it goes. Basically, it's self-protection, all right? We very subconsciously decide, okay, I never want to experience this degree of pain. So I need to quickly figure out who I need to become and what I need to do to ward off that pain.
Got you.
Which is impossible. Okay. So that then becomes the filter through which we see life. Okay. Now, we have this part of our brain, interestingly enough, called the reticular activating system, okay, that pays attention to important details, okay? So it's an important survival part of our brain, except what happens is what we end up paying a lot of attention to throughout our life are the times where we get triggered into that core pain. Right. Okay. So now at this point in our adult life, we've got a particular lens through which we see everything. And if we're not aware of it, okay, we're going to assign meaning to circumstances and events in our life. So 3 siblings have 3 very different filters through which they see the world, which shapes their personality. Okay. So 3 siblings could be sitting there and, right, mom, they remember that when they were 10, mom screamed about, milk being spilled, right? And depending on how you're going to view that exact same situation, right? One might not even remember it. What are you talking? I don't even remember mom screaming. The other one would say, I remember where I was standing. I was so terrified, right? It's all dependent on the meaning that we assign. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That is why you might have a couple of siblings now being very upset because, remember, Gavin, it's not about the circumstance. Right? About the pain that is getting triggered by the circumstance.
Yeah. I'm glad you've told her this because I've actually tried to say the same kind of thing a few times, but because I'm her husband, she won't listen to me. So, yeah, it's something that hopefully she'll take it in now. And, so thank you very much. And it was your book I was on about, by the way. My wife bought your book. So,
my book. Yes.
Yeah.
Gavin, you want to know why I didn't hear that? Because I was in my own automatic mind because that was my son calling me and he's 21 and he keeps calling me when he doesn't get me. And I had to say, stop. I didn't hear you. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for buying my book. That's beautiful.
She will probably be in touch at some point soon, and maybe even a few family members. But so thank you.
Love it.
I don't know who was next, whether it was Robin or Lena. You'll have to fight.
No, go, Lena.
Well, I was just going to say one thing, and then Robin, I'm going to ping it over to you to your amazing, thought-provoking questions. But as I was listening to you, Joanna, and you said, "Hey, even if you move, you're still bringing yourself with you." And our dear friend Allie says this all the time, and it resonates with me so much. Wherever you go, there you are.
Right.
There you are.
There
right?
you are.
And so before we close out, I'd love to dig a little deeper into the D, right? Designing your new life or designing your life, because we don't have to go anywhere, but we can do something else.
Yes.
And that's, I think that's D.
So the thing about the D step is that when we are finding joy and gratitude and fulfillment right now, it actually changes the neurochemistry in our brain. It changes our nervous system, and it changes the very energy that's inside of our bodies. Okay. And what most people don't really think about is that we are all energy. And like energy attracts like energy. So what's interesting is that when you practice this over time, you start shifting your energy that you bring into the world daily. And what that actually does is it starts to actually attract different people to you, different experiences. You might be in the shower and you have this like aha thought, you know what? I think I'm gonna take a French class, right? And you sign up for the French class and you end up meeting, the love of your life, or you end up, meeting your best friend. But that's kind of how life goes. So when we are more internally calm and at peace and feeling fulfilled, it's really amazing. We start to open ourselves up to kind of different inspirations, different thoughts, different choices. And what I hear over and over and over again, this is actually really cool from the people that are in the Mastering Your Mind program. The relationships that are most important to them are completely transforming. And it's not because that other person is doing anything. It's because they are changing internally. And so therefore they are changing how they show up relating to that other person. So I hear this over and over and over again. It's like I have a new spouse, or I have a new sister, or I have a new mother, or I have a new boss. But it's because they are shifting from the inside. So it's like, it's sort of like when you throw a pebble into a pond and there's this ripple effect. It really does over time transform every aspect of your life, because you're transforming fundamentally the identity that you see yourself as. You are no longer seeing yourself as from the automatic identity that you've been kind of dragging around with you for your whole life and thinking that that's you. It's really not you.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah. I saw Lena Sisco's mind go to identity for a moment when I know exactly what you're thinking. I recommended a book to her a while ago called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Have you heard of it?
Yes. Yes.
Brilliant book. I recommend it to everybody. And there's a bit in that about identity. I'm going to ping you back over to Lena now, because I know she'd love that particular bit. But yeah, I'll let you take over, Lena, with that.
Well, just real quick. So it comes from Greek words meaning repeating self. That's my identity. That's who I am. I'm just repeating myself over and over and over. Now I can repeat myself and have bad thoughts, or I have this inner critic. It's still me, and I assume that, right? And he goes on to give an example, like if you want to learn French and you tell people, well, I'm learning French, I'm trying to learn French, then that's what you are. But if you say, I speak French, I am speaking French, then that's who you are. You identify as a French speaker, and it can actually change that course, right? And I totally love what you say about the energy. And, a lot of people don't think about that, but I've known this for a long time. I know Robin, we talk about the woo, right? This is huge for us. And I've used it for over 20 years to build rapport, connect with people, to persuade and influence truth, right? And honesty. But, oh gosh, yeah, there's so many nuggets in here. But anyway, Gav knows my light bulb goes off with that identity, because it's, just repeating self over and over. But what's
Right.
self?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's just it. Who we know ourselves to be is really a function of the thoughts and beliefs we choose to think right now. It's not fixed, right? It
Mhm.
really is malleable, and it's dependent upon, are we going to just unhook ourselves from that old belief and really direct our mind towards something fundamentally different? And listen, I can tell you that, I mean, even 5 years ago, okay, the me that's here right now in this interview, that's not who I was 5 years ago. I don't think that's who I was like 1 year ago. Do you know? We just sort of keep growing and evolving and transforming, right? And that's what life is, right? So if we can just embrace that there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with who I was 5 years ago, right? But the more that I keep practicing this, the more that I can keep stepping into my true power, my true sense of self. And that changes the way that I show up in the world, right? So who I'm going to be 5 years from now is very different than who I am right now, because I'm going to continue to be engaged ongoingly in this work.
For the majority of people who want to grow, there are some that repeat that cycle. And was it Einstein that said, you know, the definition of stupidity is repeating the same thing and expecting a different result? However, I've noticed Robin's going to burst if he doesn't ask his question.
I know he is.
No, I'm good. I'm taking it all in.
No, go for it, Robin. We have got some questions queued. One of them's off Brian. There are a couple of others, but we will get to them in a minute.
Why don't you go to those first then, Gav? I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
You look like you were holding it back.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I always have questions, but I'm good. Go to the audience. I'm good.
All right. If I go to this one first, is this Parry? Hey, Joanna. Could you please define your definition of vulnerability?
Yes. So my definition of vulnerability is just really being able to speak your truth and to have the courage to be able to say all of what's there, right? So, and I know some of you might know Brene Brown does a lot of work with vulnerability and shame, okay? And she says that when you keep, right, your fears and your doubts and your pain to yourself and you keep it hidden, right? That's what shame is, right? I'm too ashamed to let people know how I really think and feel, okay? And so then shame grows like a cancer, right? And vulnerability is like, she says, it's like chemo for shame. It shrinks shame, right? So the more, and vulnerability is hard. It's really hard to put your beliefs and emotions on loudspeaker. And it's also really important to make sure that when you are vulnerable, you're being vulnerable with people that have earned the right to hear you with whatever it is that you're being vulnerable about. So I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, I love that. So we've got one here of Sam. Sam is amazing, by the way. She's I can't sing Sam's praises high enough. So yeah, I'll what's she got? Wondering how much relates to personality traits. I mean, again, this is something that, you know, there's a couple more. I'm going to try and get through these a little bit quick, but if you can give us a brief answer on, there's a couple more, and then we'll switch to the next.
Yeah. So Sam, I do think that we are absolutely born with certain personality traits, right? In fact, there are personality assessments where you can, right, kind of really hone in on, right? Oh, I've been this way for forever. I think that when we can really understand those parts of our personality that were formed by our automatic self, by our fears and doubts and insecurities, some people might have stronger fears and doubts and insecurities, right? But we still, right? We still have the ability to be able to see the difference between the parts of our personalities that have been formed by that inner critic mind. And we can actually change certain parts of our personality, right? Just by no longer meshing and identifying with that old self.
Okay. Just a statement here that I've come across, which I thought I'd put up there for everybody to have a quick read of. Brian wants to know, how do we circumvent our limbic system when we react? I don't believe you can, but you are more than open to suggestions that it's possible if you think it can be done.
Yeah, well, listen, I think that as human beings, we have to give ourselves room and grace and have some self-compassion for the fact that we are going to get triggered into our pain. Okay. And when we are triggered into our pain, it is not pretty. And I don't care how long you have done this work, you are going to get triggered into your core pain, and you are going to have your automatic reactivity, right? And so, yeah, I mean, we just have to have a lot of grace for that. And we need to be able to recognize, okay, that was my core pain that triggered my nervous system, right? That's right. Yeah. All in the I step. We can feel the body sensations. We can feel where it is, right? It's in my chest. It's in my stomach. It's in my shoulders, right? I have a headache, right? We know the very place that automatic mind can live inside of our body, right? The more familiar we get with it. But we have to have some room and grace for it to show up, because it never leaves us. We can just get better and better at seeing it, unhooking from it, and stepping into something else. And sometimes we don't. And that's okay.
Brilliant. I love that. And last one from Sam again. No favoritism at all here. I love this. That life is a series of chaotic events that the human brain tries to make sense of with a continuous narrative. So I've missed about 20 comments in the chat while I was doing these. So if I've missed a few, I'm really sorry. I apologise in advance. And now it's Robin's turn. You finally get to ask the question.
I don't know which one to go to. So, Joanna, one of the you really described so many things that I'm right in line with. Slightly different phraseology from what I've read, and definitely exactly the same. And one of them is all about all these things we're pursuing, basically that type A mentality. And I kind of define it as the cult of more, that we all get caught up in, that society generates around us. You know, like you said, the Robin Williams, you know, society said this is success, which is the success according to society is the cult of more, which is the pursuit of pleasure versus happiness, because happiness is internal.
Yes.
So that's kind of my framing. So my question is, what's your happiness?
What's my personal happiness?
Yeah.
My relationships.
There. And what grounds that?
What's that?
How do you ground those?
How do I ground my relationships?
Like, what makes a great relationship to you?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I've been married 26 years. And what I can say is that, you know, what my automatic mind used to have me do is look at all of the things that frustrated me and all of the things about my husband that I wanted different, right? And I would have this sort of ideal picture, right? My husband is an introvert. I am not, okay? So my husband can be very quiet. And way back when, I used to think there was something wrong with that, and I would try and fix it, and I would try and change it, right? The more that I started looking for what I love about him and really focusing on that, the more I started seeing who he was as opposed to who he wasn't, right? Or I do that with my children, okay? So the more really that I can lean into what I love about somebody, what I'm grateful for, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like my heart expands. It just, life gets better and better and better, right? And I think that for me, one of the most profound gifts about this work for me is I don't personalize other people's behavior the way I used to, right? So if somebody rejected me or they didn't want me or I used to say, oh, that's about me. And right now, I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, right? So I'm only going to attract people that I'm energetically aligned with. And if they don't want me, it's not about me. It's not because they're bad people. It's just, we're just, right? And so I can go out into the world keeping my heart open. I don't have to be so protective of my heart because somebody might reject me and they might not like me and they might criticize me, right? And when you can keep your heart open, man, it's fun. Talk about happiness.
And I'm guessing that keeps you then grounded and when you see yourself getting caught up in the cult of more, that's what brings you back center again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have to catch it. I have to catch it all the time. I have to catch it every single day. Yes.
The other question is peaked even earlier than that was when you were talking about your children and what we all learned from each other. What did you learn from, what was the biggest lesson you learned from your children?
Woo! Oh my God. There are so many. What are okay. Well,
pick a couple then.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest lesson is they are their own unique souls and they are on their own journey and on their own path. And
how'd you learn that?
How did I learn that? By having my inner critic be very attached to having them follow my path and who I wanted them to be, and having them turn around and go, I don't think so, Mom. Right? And, I mean, really, the biggest lessons that I learned came from my own pain, right? My own attempts, first and foremost, I think my own attempts to try and fix it for them and solve it for them, right? I wanted to, right? I'm a psychotherapist for goodness sake, right? I don't want my kids to be in pain, but sometimes we have to be in pain. That's actually part of their growth. So when I could learn, especially during the pandemic, right? I had to just kind of let go and let them, right? I could try and support them, but they had to deal with their own insecurity and fear and doubt, and there was nothing that I could do to take it away. My one and only job is just to love them. That's really it. And that's probably the biggest lesson.
Thank you.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is exactly why we have Robin on. We've put your contact details down in the description as well, by the way. So there's like links to your website, and I think your phone number and everything's on there. So for anybody watching, that is there. I wanted to just let everybody know in advance about that. Lena, I think you look like you've got something you wanted to say as well.
No, look at this. It's ridiculous. Normally I have a notepad and I'm grabbing little pieces of paper. There's just so many, like we call them knowledge bombs, that I just absolutely love. Oh gosh, and I don't even know where to go, but I know we are rounding up to the top of the hour. So before I forget, Joanna, please tell everyone where you can be found. And please, could you give us a little insight? I know it's just for women, but about this amazing retreat you have coming up as well.
Yes.
Tell us where we can find you, how we can hire you, how we can learn from you, and about this retreat.
Absolutely. So my website is dethrowingyourinnercritic.com. My book is Dethroning Your Inner Critic. My podcast is Dethroning Your Inner Critic. That's where you can find me. This is the second year in a row. I am leading a magical retreat in Costa Rica at a place called the Imaloa Institute. It is right in the heart of the Costa Rican jungle. And so doing this work with the support of nature and the energy that the jungle brings is so profound. Last year, we did this silent meditation down to this waterfall, right on the property, and everybody washed away, parts of their old self. I mean, there's a lot to it, but it's that kind of magical experience, right? And the other thing that I want to say is the food that they serve is more like a work of art. It's like it's plant-based food, but it is some of the best food that I've ever tasted. It's just a nurturing experience all the way around, mind, body, and soul. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, again, you can go to my website. You can book a clarity call with me. I'm happy to hop on a Zoom with anybody that wants to connect with me and learn more about the retreat or my Mastering Your Mind program, or working with me one-on-one. That's the best way to do it.
Brilliant. Love that.
This has been amazing. I actually got goosebumps when you were talking about the jungle and the oh my God, everything from the nature and plants, because I'm huge into that. I'm a huge water. I've got to be in water, surrounded by water. I still figure out why. But yeah. Oh yeah. Gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, I'm going to want to talk to you myself as well when at some point when I get into
I do work one-on-one with men. Okay. I still do one-on-one work with men. My group is for women right now, but I do one-on-one work with men, and anybody that sees me privately, you still have access to the course. You just see me one-on-one. But this has been wonderful to be here tonight. Yeah.
And his last question always is, Joanna, what's something we should have asked you that we were horrible hosts and didn't ask you that you wanted to make sure you shared with the rest of the audience?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What is I don't know. I don't know. I feel like we covered everything. I can't even think of anything that you didn't cover or ask me. Yeah.
Brilliant.
You have 3 people hammering you.
Yeah. Will you be willing to come back again at some point?
I will come back whenever you will have me. This was so much fun. So you say the word and I am here. I would love to join you again.
Brilliant. Yeah, it'd be great.
You got to tell us why your son was trying to get a hold of you.
I know.
Why your son?
I did miss
nothing important, probably. He just, sometimes he just keeps. Yeah.
I'm sorry to parry on this.
He's away at college, right? So when he wants to talk to me when he wants to talk to me.
So I always hit my focus on this too, and the 2 people that can break through focus are my son and my daughter, and yeah, they're grown as well. But yeah, baby boy and my little girl, so yeah, they can break through that. So I picked up on it. It's like, oh, yeah, been there. It's all good.
Exactly.
If I missed anybody's question, I know I missed a question of Parry's. I'm really sorry, Parry. But yeah, there are a few questions that I did miss. So there are still some that we'd love to answer when you come back. So join us for the next time with that. Lena, your masterclass, can we tell people about that?
Yeah, so we have a special announcement. I have been announcing it, and I know Matthew is on here. Hey, Matthew, he's been helping us. So next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Gavin and I will be going live during the lunch hour, talking about the 3 core areas of my book, Honest Answers, which are elicitation, interviewing, and negotiation. And I decided to host a masterclass on it, meaning it's dedicated on the book. And when you join up, you get a free copy of the book autographed, and it dives down. It's a 2-part training. It is a masterclass because you're going to get so much content in these areas and some more. The first part is self-paced, and it's hosted on Thinkific. It is taught by me, so you'll have to listen to me and look at me as we go through 4 modules, and there's quizzes and to check for your learning. And then we're coming together on December 16th. So to register, if anybody's interested, let me know, hit me up, but it is on thecongruencygroup.com. If you go to my website, on the top bar, there's a tab called HAMC, Honest Answers Master Class, and all the information about the master's class is there. And of course, the registration button. I can only allow 40 people. I will be hosting again next year, but it won't be at this discounted rate. So only 40 people, because the second part is a live 4-hour webinar. And I get it, we're adults, we're going to have bio breaks and this, that, and you don't have to participate. You can go on mute and close your camera, but I want this to be a Q&A. I want this to be, give me a scenario. You and I are going to role play. We're actually going to dive down into specific challenges. And of course, I will share a lot more information about those 3 core areas. And that's the master class. If you have any questions, hit me up. But you will see Gavin in the master class with us as well. You're going to see him and the 3 days that we're just talking about free content. So Monday is going to be a elicitation. Tuesday at lunch, we're going to talk about interviewing techniques. And then Wednesday at lunch, we're going to be talking about negotiation. And of course, we'll also give you guys a link if you're interested in registering for the master class.
And right after that, on Wednesday evening, Lena, Siobhan, and I are on this channel again.
Yes.
We are. I've just finished my Harvard course on leadership, resilient leadership. So we're doing leadership skills. I know it's a specialist area of Lena's. Siobhan's done it as well. So we'll be coming together right after that masterclass on Wednesday to do that on this channel. So mark that in your diaries. Robin, who have you got coming up? This
is the ultimate reality show channel. So Monday, my show, Forged by Trust, I have Alden Mills, former Navy SEAL and entrepreneur. He's going to be on. Wrote a great book on resiliency and overcoming obstacles, and just a really fun show with Alden. And tonight, if you're U.S. based or have access to News Nation, I was on it last night with Scott Rouse talking about the murders in in Moscow, Indiana. I'll be on again tonight on the same show at around, I think it's 10:30 Eastern time, 10:40 Eastern time, talking about it again with an observation I had in the crowd. And anyway, so if you want a little more Death by Robin tonight, I'll be on the News Nation. And then, Monday's the broadcast of the podcast, and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the live chat on the YouTube channel.
Which is on the YouTube channel, and your website is
peopleformula.com for me, books, coaching, and speaking. But yeah, coaching is my main thing I love doing, and my online courses as well.
Fantastic. For Erin, yes, there will be. Keep a close eye on the Facebook page.
Yes. So, and it's TCG Tribe is the private group that you can join if you're not already in it. And, we've been talking about resiliency. Joanna, I bet you that is a huge compartment of just helping to dethrone that inner critic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Who are you going to be when the what hits the fan, right?
Yeah, and that's what Alden talks about. He was really bullied as a young kid because he had really thick thighs. They called him thunder thighs and made fun of him because he's chubby. And he goes on to be a Naval Academy graduate. Matter of fact, he was there when I was there, and then goes on to be a Navy SEAL, using that to his advantage. So he took a trauma in his earlier life and turned it to that advantage. Yeah. And actually became a varsity crew rower because of it. Anyway, just interesting story. Good story as always.
Thank you to everybody who joined us. It's been brilliant, and thank you to Joanna for joining us. And
thank you, Joanna, and being vulnerable.
Yeah. Oh, I love that word. We'll definitely have you back on again for more questions. And that's it. Everybody join us here again. Well, no, we're on Facebook next week, aren't we?
Yep.
Yeah, so we had a bit of a switch around because we were on Eric's show previous. So next week, the live stream is on Facebook on the TCG.
Don't know Perry.
Awesome.
Wants to know if the show's in the UK.
Yes,
but I'll put the clip out when it comes out again. It's on you. I'll make sure it's on YouTube, not just Twitter for people that are no longer on Twitter.
Good.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah, Twitter's hemorrhaging a few customers, but I think
it's up and down. It's like everything.
Yeah, I don't think most of them real. Thanks again, and that concludes. I'll hit the end board.